happy to be here with you.
Nice to have you. It's nice to have you.
When you said big job means big servant.
Yes.
There to serve.
Yes. Of course, we are all in the service of Ghana. Yes. And so far, because I was checking the last time and I realized that you came to post, is it in March or February?
Yeah. January.
January, actually?
Yes. Okay. My appointment was one of the earliest, 21st January.
21st January.
I effectively started towards the end of the month of January 25.
Oh, you're way past 1 year.
Yes.
And so far, how are you finding the job?
So far, it's been good. We've doing a lot of reforms under the leadership of the president and my minister, Dr. Kwasi, because we believe that at the end of the day, domestic revenue must be the driver of national development. So we're pushing a lot through, and we are hopeful that we'll get the needed results so that we can support the development agenda of the president.
Well, it's in studio to talk about Publican, but I want to ask you one more question before we get to Publican, because I know you were a country director for one of the, I think,
KPMG.
Yes. So, was one of the big four auditing firms globally. That job, this job, which one is less stressful?
Honestly, you are not the first to ask me, and I tell people this job is 10 times the KPMG stress.
Okay.
Because in the public service is huge, and if you are raising revenue, when the revenue does not come, almost literally, the country will come to a halt. So you wake up every day and you are on your toes to make sure that the revenue, which we call the blood of the nation, is flowing. Otherwise, everything comes to a standstill. And then, of course, you need to deal with several stakeholders. My colleagues at GRE need to deal with my minister, need to deal with other government agencies. So it's something that you must always be on your toes. But the good thing is that it's not a job you do alone. We have a fantastic team that I'm working with, 3 commissioners and able officers, men and women who are also equally competent and capable. So that's the joy, and that you bring the leadership and you work together, and every day you keep on achieving, and you get the fulfillment that at least you have the opportunity to serve your own countrymen and women.
Has that been a job easier, the kind of people you have around you? Because if you look at the structure of the GRA, you are virtually everywhere across this country, not only at border posts or ports, you are in every district across this country. What has made it easier for you in terms of delivering on the mandate that you have been given?
So you are quite right. So GRA today, we are about 10,000 people in GRA, scattered across the nation.
Your
so
staff strength is 10,000.
Yes, it's a huge institution. Yes, very, very huge institution. But of course, like with every institution, the key thing is about having the structures. And GRA, some of the structures are set in law. So you can't just change it. You need to work with it. But also, if you have 10,000 people, then you are talking about leadership, how to galvanize people and gather their aspiration and give them a direction in a way that when we combine our collective strength, we can deliver on what we have to do. So that's what myself and the other commissioners, as the top executive, we do to make sure that we are bringing leadership and we are working with the people to ensure that we keep focus in terms of what the mandate ahead of us, so we can deliver on that.
And for many people, because I've been at this job at least for a while, and I've spoken to many people who have had to transition from private sector to the public sector, and they talk about the frustrations of how when you try to sometimes deliver the efficiency in the private sector and the public sector, it becomes difficult. In the GRS case, do you have similar frustrations?
So I will call them challenges, and the challenges has to be contextual, because in the terrain of the private sector is quite different from the public sector. So in the private sector, you'll be guided by your internal policies. And most of the time, the leadership runs from the board of directors. Once in a while, once in a year, shareholders may come in. So you are dealing with your board of directors and your management. Contrary in the public sector, you have laws that you need to follow. Then you have the policies. So sometimes you want to move, but the law says follow these steps. It's prescribed for you. And the point is that if with all, you may have all the good intentions, but if you don't follow the law, it means that you are going against public interest. Number two, actually, is also the public interest. Anything that you are doing, you have to take into account the public interest, because ultimately they are the people you are serving. And then, of course, government has its own policies. And as a GRA, as a government authority agency, your actions must also align with the overall policy of the government. So there are several key factors that every decision that you make, you have to take into account. That also brings in a wider stakeholder consultation. So in order to get things done, you have to factor all of this in the process. So I wouldn't call it frustration, but ensuring that you understand the areas of terrain and the things that needs to be done to ensure that you can deliver the law, the policies, public interest, stakeholder issues. And if you factor all of this in, I think generally you'll be good at working efficiently in the public sector.
And that's the interesting thing, because everything you mentioned is at play in this Publican matter.
Certainly.
And I recall one of the very first thing the minister said at some point when he started engaging the press, finance minister, was that he was having a problem with, I think, revenue at the ports. Yes. He said it over and over.
Half year 2025, he mentioned that we were trailing by about 1.6 billion, and that's a huge gap that he referred to, that we needed to do something to reduce that leakage.
What was the problem then?
Yeah. So let me say that when we took office together with the ministry, we looked at a 5-year history and to ask ourselves that whether we know or a sense that there will be revenue leakages, but we didn't know the magnitude. So we said, let's look back 5 years to look at what we can find. And the result that we had was quite staggering and shocking. So we noted that close to about 83 billion USD has been transferred out of the country in the name of trade, which means that value of that magnitude should come in. But we did find out that only about 31 billion USD value came in as trade, which means that the difference went out either for trade, but we didn't get benefit of it, or for something else. Which then brings us to the question of, was there under declaration of what was coming in, or the money being transferred through other means for which the country was not getting a benefit? So when we quantified that, we estimated that close over 11 billion Ghana cedi revenue related was leaking. So we then ask ourselves, what will be the cause of these things? And then, of course, we decided that we looked at it and said, there were so many human interventions in the process, which either allow errors or allow collusion, and therefore you need to strengthen those processes. You automate a bit more so that you can reduce the human intervention, you can reduce potential for under-declaration, misclassification, and so on and so forth. So that's what we actually set ourselves to do, and that's what actually brought the idea of using the Publican, which was also being done in other places.
Very interesting. That's a staggering figure. You're talking about
certainly
over 80 billion.
Yes.
You only see 32 billion.
32 billion. So that's huge amount of money leaving the country.
How does that happen? Because you're saying transferred made in the name of trade. Yes. So I send money.
Yeah. So typically when you are going to import, Ministry of Trade has a requirement. You fill what we call import declaration form. And that allows your bankers to be able to send money in advance because you have indicated that you are using the money to buy. So ordinarily, once the money has left the country, you will expect that 3 months, 4 months, the actual goods should follow through the country. Then we're seeing that in these cases, in not all the cases that the goods were coming, or sometimes when the goods were coming in, the values were lower than what has been sent out. So the issue then was, did they actually pay for the goods that so much? But when the goods came in, the values that were declared to government for taxes were lower. Because what you declare is what formed the basis significantly in terms of how government was collecting money, or it was something else. And then we found out that in most cases, we believe that it was more of under declaration. And which was, if it's under declaration, then of course government was losing money. So we needed to take in measures to be able to help us to uplift these areas so fairly. Of course, one of the key things in taxation is what we call equity and parity.
Okay.
You have to be fair to the taxpayer, but what belongs to government must come to government, and what the taxpayer must pay ought also to be paid. And these are the kind of principles which are time-tested, and we are using it to guide us in this kind of areas.
And I guess when you saw the numbers, it might have raised the antenna of the auditor in you, trying to understand exactly what these numbers mean and everything.
Certainly. Of course, coming from where I was, you also think about the solution. So when you have the big leakage like that, is finding this is one thing, and also doing something about it to change it for the benefit of the nation was also a much greater course that we needed to take.
At what point did you then decide that this is the way to go? What formed the basis of you deciding to go with Publican?
Right. So let me step back to say in the world of trade and in the world of customs duty collection, there are 4 key variables that always impact the taxes that you finally assess on the taxpayer. One is the country of origin, where the goods are coming from, because it determines the freight also that the importer pays. And in Ghana, freight constitutes part of the value that we assess tax on. So if you take an import from China, and rather you tell me it's coming from, let's say, Nigeria, Nigeria is a shorter distance, or what would then happen is that the freight will be lower as opposed to if you're coming from China. So knowing the country of origin is key. Then the second one we've also talked about is classification. So every product that is manufactured and moves in each country and globally, there's World Customs Organization has a unified code for it. So every code must be properly coded, and that code helps the government to determine the taxes to be placed on that. If you misclassify, you can take advantage of getting a lower tax. So that's also a key thing, and it's not easy finding, the volumes of goods that come through the port is not easy. Then the third one is what we call the values. And the values, the general principle is that the price at which the importer bought it. So this is the price the importer bought. So the question is that if an importer comes and says, this is the price I bought, government has interest, it impacts the taxes. How should government vet it to be sure that indeed the price you are telling government is the right price? And of course, I know people have argued that the law says that you should use the price at which the importer bought it. But the same law and the principle also say that government has a right to use other means to validate the price that is presented to it. So it's not a one-side equation because there are 2 parties in here. So we then tell us over the years, we've tried several methods. If you listen or follow it, you hear benchmark values. It was all in an attempt to find out what is the right values people were bringing to government. We talk about reference price list. So when something is coming from a country, you agree that generally these goods may be purchased at this price, but they are all approximations. In the current evolving technology, we came across this automation that could help us identify or vet all these 3 things at a go. Country of origin, classification, and valuation. So we said, of course, let's look into this technology and see if others are using it. Then, of course, we can also use it to be able to help us. And this Publican, as we talk about, if you go to the World Customs Organization website, they have validated it that it's helped a number of other countries to deal with these customs issues. So we started by asking them, come and demonstrate to us that it actually works. So that we call it a proof of concept. So they came to Ghana, demonstrated that it can work. Then we said, okay, let's do a pilot. So you now put a sample of historical data in and to check if we had to use the tool, what would have been the results? And the results were staggering. One, we could see that if you have used the tool then, revenue would have gone up by 40-45%. Number 2, it was also able to identify certain risk factors like burn, drugs, food, security items. So we said, well, it's not only revenue, because customs trade is also important in those areas. So from there, we said, okay, if this is going to work, let's open it up to the people's representative in parliament, because this is a big thing for the state. So we took the whole process through parliament, went to present to parliament, explained to them how it can solve, and eventually parliament gave an approval that we should work with them. So in January, we took the opportunity to engage with our, I call them development partners, which are trade associations and the agents, because we work hand in hand and we can't ignore the importance of their role in trade and what we do. Then, of course, we had engagement with other government agencies we work with, and then the general public, and then the media. Then in February, we fully deployed the tool to cover every importation and declaration that we made, to give us a sense as to whether if you run it through all importations, it will work. And the results were staggering. That's where we began to realize that for every declaration on the average daily, we're seeing that if we're using the tool to assist us, we're going to generate close to about 3 million USD a day. So which means that it indeed, having tested it on 2 stages and now testing it on a wider scale, it had a potential. And then we took the decision that on the 11th of March, we will fully deploy it to assist our officers to be able to do classification and valuation and come to the proper decision, which is in the interest of the importer and at the same time also in the interest of the state by protecting state revenue.
Very interesting. You said when you did the pilot, you found out that this could help you generate $3 million.
This is the actual one when we did it in February. So the whole month of February.
So the first rollout?
Yes. We deployed it without the public knowing. So every declaration, we were running it through the Publican system to let us know what it will turn out. And then we noticed that close to about average of about 3 million USD a day revenue, if we are using the system, was telling us this is what government was losing. So that's staggering.
3 million?
Yes, USD. So that translates to close to about 1 billion Ghana cedis a month. So that's a staggering, and more or less relate with the earlier studies that we had conducted, that this indeed was quite a huge gap, and we needed to use this technology to support us to make the right decisions and to generate the revenue for the state.
You talked about, and I'm sure you've been listening to everybody talk about the kind of engagement you had. You mentioned engaging Parliament. And to what extent did you engage the traders, those who were the importers?
Yes, so the traders, as I said, in January, we had a whole day session, almost a whole day session with the trade associations. So we invited all of them and also invited the agents because they work closely, and the agents are actually working for the traders. So we had to take them through how this system is going to work, how it will impact them, and how we intend to work with them to make it come in. So we had that in January. So once in February was quiet, of course, they didn't know we were using it. So again, once we started March, we have had to do some further engagement because this is practically onto their desks. And I must say, they brought certain key suggestions that we have already taken on board. One was the fact that previously, if a custom officer finds an error or anomaly, so this is the process. Once you bring your importation, the agents fill that up into our system called ICOMS, indicating the country of origin, the same things, the classification and the evaluation. So it's a self-assessment portal that the importer tells customs or government. So previously, when customs looks at these areas and we found that there was something not correct, we will correct it for them. When we were deploying the Publican, in fact, we had said, let the importers or agents correct it themselves, because if we found an error, we've found out that was challenging for them because they are not used to it. So eventually we changed the decision. And this is one key arising from the engagement we had with them to say, look, keep on doing what you used to do for us in the past until we get used to how the system works. So that we change the process and ensure that we are supporting them in that respect. Second is that there was also already existing what we call an appeal process. This is unrelated to Publican at all, but previously, again, when officers were vetting information, which currently Publican does, and they had a concern, there was a 3-4 member team that will look at it to ensure that
has always been in place.
Has always been in place. So again, we have re-emphasized that, and they are working 24/7. So we're saying that. So that is a almost instant process that was already there, but we have figured it out into a 24 system as we have it under the 24 hours. So today, our people who do the classification and evaluation are working 24. We run a 3-system shift to make sure that any time that the importer wants to declare and run, we are also ready and marching that one. So this again is part of the conversations that we have had with them to make sure that introduction of Publican will not lead to any delays or unnecessary bottlenecks.
And so far, and let me stick to that for a while, because I'm sure. Well, we're just speaking to a former president of the Ghana Freight Forwarders Association, and I get the impression, because he was also talking about the appeal process.
Right.
Okay. How different is the appeal process that you use for Publican from what what was in place? Are there any differences?
So we've added another layer. Let me explain that. So the first one is what I said, which has always been there, and it's not changed. So the same appeal process that if you put in your declaration is normally handled by one officer. If you are not satisfied with that officer's decision, there's always a 3, 4, 5 member team maximum that will look at it and also say that, when we all look at it, we either agree with the officer or we adjust the officer's view or we disagree with the importer. That has always been in place.
And that happens on the same day?
Happens on the same. That's 24/7. So that's a 3-shift running appeal system. But on top of that, we said that because we are introducing Publican, and maybe people may have concerns that they believe even the normal appeal will not resolve, we've put in another second layer that in the event that you are not satisfied with the normal appeal, that should not be the end. You still have opportunity to escalate it to the second appeal, and we'll look at it. So that second appeal meets twice a week. And there's always the suggestion also from our partners to say, increase the number. And we are willing to do that. But at least at the moment, we meet twice a week because that's exception basis and it's not a lot. So if you are still not satisfied, that body as a second layer still gives opportunity for the importer to make their views heard. So for us, it's an improvement of what you used to do, an opportunity that doesn't close the door, but opens it up so that the importers can. And in one of the 2 weeks ago, for example, we have had to uphold the position of the importer because we realized that our officer made a mistake and the taxes went up by that error. So we looked at it and we said, yes, we can see a clerical error here on our part, and therefore the importer was correct. So it's not always the case that the appeal process will go in favor of government because the fundamental principle is fairness. If you have to collect, you have to collect. If you don't have to collect, you need to make sure that the importer has it.
Interesting. You have sort of like a court system here. So you have first a high court judge, then you have an appeal court, then you have the Supreme Court. But because sometimes the appeal system tells you how traders feel about what you are deploying. Have you gotten to the point where you are realizing that perhaps many traders are not happy with it based on the number of appeals you're seeing?
No, not at all. We think that many traders should be happy with what is happening. So in the month of March, we realized that 75%, the Publican said they are okay. Whatever they 75% of traders and their declarations. Let me not say traders. 75% was what traders declared. The Publican agreed with them. no issues at all,
Okay.
which means that the majority of what we have is there was no challenge. You put in, and the Publican say green as a normal process. However, there was a 25% that the Publican flags that, maybe country of origin as an issue, classification as an issue, valuation as I look into it. So that is the 25 that we have to take a second look at and make sure that whatever Publican has alerted us, we look into it. And it is part of that group that some may appeal. Some may just be a clerical error. So when Publican flags and we alert them, we do it for them, they accept, they go. So when you look at it truly, it's a smaller percentage that we eventually deal with if you have to go through the appeal process at all. So we believe that for a large group of declarations, those ones are being done correctly, and we encourage the importers and agents continue to do so. The smaller group that flags, we work with them and we continue to improve the process to make sure that it doesn't it doesn't obstruct trade, but we assist the importers to do. What could then also happen is the case that, well, if in the past you were importer and you are not correctly declaring and the systems highlight it, then of course we have to go through that process to make sure that we are bringing you at par and fair to other traders. Because remember, again, is the issue about equity and fairness. If your competitor is paying the correct taxes and you are not, you then have market advantage. You come in, you can price differently, and you distort the market. So to be fair to all importers, that's why we say this system doesn't know anybody's face and doesn't know anyone. It assesses correctly, and we use it as a guide to make sure that we are being fair to all importers.
Have you? Because every country differs. So in terms of the nuances of trade, in terms of where you are buying from, who you are buying from. For example, I can buy the same product from you and buy from Eric, and there are two different prices that are involved. Where you have that situation, have you fed that nuance into the system? How does the system deal with it? Where you have same goods bought from two different places, different prices, one lower than the other. Do you force the one who is lower to come up to the level of the one which is higher? How do you handle those things?
So no, not at all. As I said, valuation is principled on the price at which the importer bought it. So if you bought item A for X and you bought item B for Y, that is a base price that we need to be validating and working with. So what happens in the world of trade, that we have what we call export data. Each country, when they are exporting into another country, they will have to also compile and fill a form. The product that they are shipping, the prices that they have sold to the importer. So those export data exist in countries. So for us, Ghana, for example, countries that we trade with, those export data exist in Europe, in China, in America. They are available. Now, previously, and I want to emphasize is that this is also not a new thing. Today, we are using technology, but our officers have done this over years. So without even AI, when you brought in your goods, we have to work through to confirm that it's coming from the country, try to look at the country's database manually to see whether the price that you say you bought it is what exists. That actually took us each about 2 hours to do that work. So basically, what the AI is doing is the activity or the research that took us 2 hours to do. The AI does it in 5 minutes. So this is the big change in the process. That instead of the human being spending 2 hours to look into all this data globally and determine that the importer is filing the correct data to government, the AI picks the same information the importer has presented, analyze it within 5 minutes, and it generates a report for the officer. So for us, it's an efficiency tool as well. You save almost 2 hours so the officer can work well. So, and the AI doesn't come with one value. So for example, if you brought in an item and say you bought it from China, and in which city which you describe, which the importer described, the AI goes to China, goes to the export database of that city and say, okay, what is the lowest price somebody has ever bought this item? So let's say that is $10. And the AI will ask the second question, what's the highest price somebody has also bought this item? Maybe it comes out as 20. So the AI will just tell the officer that Well, the lowest price I saw in China, this item being bought is $10. Okay. The highest is 20. If the importer comes and says, I bought it 12, the I say, check, it's green. Okay. Because you are within, if somebody has bought it 10 and bought it 12, it means that maybe that 10 person had a better negotiation skills than you. Okay. But the AI will prove you will not challenge your price. Okay. So the AI doesn't give specific, but it gives a range. Mm-hmm. If you came in and said, on the other hand, I bought it $5, the AI will flag it and tell the officer that I never saw $5. Okay. The least I saw is 10. It is possible that when the importer, when he had a good deal, had a good negotiation and got a 5. Okay. So the officer now will ask the importer to bring better particulars of the 5 to show that indeed you actually bought it 5, not 10. Mm-hmm. So this is where now the work of the officer begins. So you notice that the AI doesn't close the door, or the officer doesn't close the door to the importer. It rather asks the importer to defend the price which the AI has not seen being sold before.
I see. There was one other thing that was raised by Governor Vuswapi again. Yeah. He said in some cases, you ask for, is it transfer documents?
Yes.
And he says it is not for every trade that you have somebody making transfers from Ghana. Now, in some cases, the transfers are made outside Ghana because some of the companies have maybe the mother companies outside Ghana, so they make the payments outside Ghana. Is that also something that you've noted?
Yeah. So, for example, in this example, the 5, we ask for payment, evidence of payment, not necessarily transfer. Okay. So, if you say you bought it 5, then you need to demonstrate that you paid for 5. Okay. That can be in a form of transfer that you transfer from your bank account in Ghana to the supplier. Okay. That can be another means through which you paid for. Because if you said your bill is 5 and you've paid for it, then the evidence of payment is a stronger evidence that actually I paid for 5 so that we can accept it. So in proving that you bought it for 5, we may ask you to show evidence of payment. Okay. And it can be any form of evidence that the importer has used to demonstrate. So like he said, we are not sticking to only transfer. Okay. If you ask your friend to pay for you and your friend paid it in their bank account, we will accept it and look at it. Remember, in our research, we said 82 billion left and 31 came. Okay. Part of the reason is, did we actually pay for goods worth 82 billion? But we declared 31 billion here. Okay. So the process of validating the declaration involves payment information.
So you have to look at the payment information
yes.
to satisfy it.
To satisfy ourselves that indeed, if you say you bought it 5 and it had a better deal, show us more evidence.
This is the evidence.
Yes. And if you show us, it's a normal process. Again, that is not AI related. The system will allow you to proceed on that basis.
Yourself.
But let me say, there are cases that we've come and once people have challenged and we ask for the payment, and when we of course, we also have the data on the payment, not that they are bringing. Okay. We are interfaced with the banking system, so by the time you come, we know your payment. So when they come and we show them their payment, trust me, we have a nice conversation and they go and pay their duty. Okay. So we are not working blind. Okay. We also, because of the IDF system, by the time a matter comes to us to look at it, we also do our research on what transfers and payment you've done. Sometimes the conversation is quite amicable because once the person comes and says, okay, I bought it 5 cedis, but we've seen that when you were declaring that you were going to import, you declare to your bank that you buy the item 10 Ghana dollars, and this is the transfer you made. So why, if you didn't pay for the 5, have you returned the 5 to the country? If not, then you've paid for it. So that evidence now comes into play. And in most cases, people have amicably just gone home and paid their duty based on the additional information that we've shown them.
And I just wanted to come to yourself, because if you're deploying a system, I know 1 month is quite a short period to be doing an assessment, but so far, what's your assessment of the system? Do you see some teething challenges that you think you need to do it?
So far, we believe that the system has performed satisfactorily. As we said, we took time to run it the whole month of February to let us see what we wanted to see and whether it's giving us the correct information and so on and so forth. So it's working as far as we are concerned. It's working well. I think it's also working with our officers. We've trained them. They are working. What we need is more engagement. For example, areas that the agents and the importers do not understand. We continue with the engagement. And indeed, I heard the former president talking about the fact that we had a meeting at the ministry. And at that meeting, we agreed that we want to set up a joint technical team with the importers, representatives from them that will meet weekly going forward for the next 3 to 6 months. So this week, we are kicking in that process so that the challenges that they have, they bring in what Giorgio agreed this is the best way to do it, and we keep moving. We believe that every change has these teething problems, and we are open to it. They have been in trade for years. Government has also been there for years. But when we work together, at the end of the day, we will protect each other's interests. So we are not shutting the door at all, and want to kick in that weekly engagement and discussion. So he said, what we had was not enough. We fully agree. And that's why at that same meeting, what he didn't say is that at that same meeting, we agreed that all the various groups should bring a reps of 2 to 3, and let's begin to work continuously. So that it's not a one-off thing, something that will continue so that we can resolve all the issues. And then, of course, I heard him also talk about vehicles. Again, what they don't know is that we have not deployed the system on vehicles. So people are citing examples. AI is giving it is a normal old process which is working. We decided that we'll run for all other goods in the month of March and April and bring in vehicles from May. So we have not used the AI for vehicles at all. We are now going there.
I see.
So all the stories about my vehicles has gone up. It's not the AI. It's not the AI.
It's a normal old
system.
process that
yes.
has been
So maybe psychologically people are feeling this AI is catching me, and therefore, but it is not. We will start the vehicle one in May. Yes. So it's not correct to say that the use of the AI has led to increase in values of vehicles. We haven't deployed the AI for vehicle classification and valuation yet.
But are you worried that despite disagreements on engagements you are having, because so far I've heard Food and Beverages Association, one of the biggest trading associations in Ghana, GUTA itself, and I was just talking about the freight forwarders, that they're still going to the media complaining about the Publican, saying that there are issues that you need to urgently address. Are you worried about this? Are you in touch with them? What kind of conversations are happening to make sure these issues are dealt with?
So let me start with the freight forwarder. And sometimes I joke that they are becoming more Catholic than the Pope. So they are agents of the importers. So even if you say the system is paying more, charging more, the incidence is on the importer, not the agent. We've not touched the agent's role at all. So it sometimes baffles us that they have the biggest voice because they have not been impacted at all. The relationship with their importers, nothing has changed. Of course, they have to speak on behalf of the importers. So if there's a concern, we are ready to hear them. The same for the importers. We are saying 75% is green. The AI is not leading to any change in what they have declared. It means that the AI is accepting, saying that their self-declaration is fine. So there's a core 25 we need to deal with. And let's remember that we've said that there was a potential under declaration. That means that some people were benefiting at the disadvantage of what the state. So obviously, if people were benefiting and you are throwing a light on what they were benefiting so that benefit will go away, it will not come easy. There will be the resistance, there will be the voice. But we've opened the door to say, let's engage. We and government or GRA is not saying, let's not talk. Let's engage, bring the issues that you are facing, and we'll solve them. And I gave the example when they came and told us that the corrections we're asking them to do, because in the past we're doing for them, they've not learned how to do it. We took it up and said, we'll continue to do it, but we'll train you. So further down the line, when you've learned, you can take it up yourself. That, for me, that was a positive, constructive thing that we're doing. And we say we want to continue that. And that's why we said we want a joint technical team working on a weekly basis. So my appeal to them is that they should let us work together. The call for suspension, in my view, doesn't solve the problem. Because as you are working with it and you are having the challenges, you then solve it. If you suspend, it means that you are not having the opportunity to be running with the system. So anytime you resume, you will still face the challenges. So it doesn't solve the problem. And that's why our position is that we will continue to deploy the system, but we are open that as and when challenges arise, we will work together, have an agreement in mind, and resolve. And we think that is the best approach to this matter.
And we started this with data. The data that informed the process that led to deploying Publican.
Right.
So far, would you say Publican has helped in dealing with the problem you saw?
Yes. I'm saying so because, as I said, Publican is telling me 75% of my declarations are generally within the expected range. Okay. However, there's a 25. And that 25 is telling me that I'm potentially losing revenue of $3 million USD a day or $1 billion a month. Okay. So for us as GR, it aligns with the expectation that we had. Okay. But also practically, we've looked at the 3 weeks before Publican and 3 weeks after Publican since we deployed on the 11-12 March. And the data again is revealing. 3 weeks before Publican, we were making revenue of $2.4 billion for the 3 weeks. 3 weeks after Publican, we made $3.6 billion.
Oh,
a whooping $1.2 billion rise.
Okay.
You can say that, okay, it may be due to other factors, but in the month of March, first quarter, is the lowest season of customs operations. So you can't say
in the month of March, the lowest season.
Yeah, in the first quarter after Christmas, the goods are in the system. The importers are not bringing as much. So it peaks from April going.
Okay.
So even in the lowest season, we are realizing in 3 weeks after deployment, revenue going up by $1.2 billion. So we, based on our expectation and based on what we saw in February and based on what we are actually seeing in the bank account of government, for us, the Publican is supporting us to block some of the leakages, if not all. And this will be good news for us as Ghanaians. So it means that you as a trader, some people were benefiting and some were not benefiting. So now we are standardizing and we are creating a fair system where everybody that must pay their due taxes are paying. So that must be a joy for traders that at least government is doing something that is equitable and fair. It also means that we are generating revenue that will help develop the country. So that must be something that should be welcome. Of course, recognizing the teething problems, we will work at it. But the results shows that this must be something that we must be proud of and be happy with, that Ghana can raise its own revenue and use it to develop the nation for the betterment of all. Because remember, every city you lose, your 1 kilometer of road will not be done, your hospital will not be equipped, your school will not be built, and there will be no employment for our children and our family. So every one city counts, and all of us must make sure that the nation has right to that one city that could go into private pocket.
Commissioner General, allow me to take a quick break. When I come back, we'll conclude this conversation with the Commissioner General. We've been talking about the Publican system. The most important thing is how it has helped the country. And ultimately, we've been discussing how the traders, some of them, feel about it. So far, it says the estimates show that 75% of all cases, there's no issue to resolve. Once the values are presented, the Publican accepts it, and then everybody moves on. It's 25% that they are questioning, thus raising some of these problems that we are hearing. But it says they are engaging. We'll take a break. We'll be back.
Minia, baby, obeto asasi, ufie, ubetenem, anase, adensi uniam, and I owe dadri ana. Enye, na me come for Heart Builders Real Estate, Eddie amount. Heart Builders Real Estate, you know pa, one we bini, one mutonton, insasi, adensi uniama, and afi, and daya, one si dada, afi, so per se, is so dying sumawa, you be sitting kama, Eddie amawo, one musansuya architectural drawing, land survey, biofuel digester. Minia, Senisu, no one say, Heart Builders Real Estate, Yensa Sini be ewo, high heels, Ningo Prampra, Take Kwame, Anes, and Alfie, Dawa, Minia, and Nija Semini say, so 25,000. Equa, who to me and Sassy B, Ato, say a year half plot, full plot, Anna, Ekesa, you bet Trebi at the Amawo, Hat Builders Real Estate, our installment plan, at the Mobi Bia, one more Busumi Miensa, Educo Pim, a fit bako, say, for 3 hours Kenya, Kayona Shanusu say, Yansasana, Langa, the same piano, Minia, if you're that, any minute the Bia, your tunes are from say, bra, the phone Nico Shasas and the Pieta, Afi, Chichiacha Quine, I was a shaman, any old Mandela Park, no, Anna, Taketo, Divisional Police Headquarters, any dish anymore, Fraying, I want who may so, 0241 66 5200, Anna 0540 22 6276, and Afi 0256 06 4491.
I've been so cool. Well, Mabel Restaurant and 2 a.m. sounds. Now, first in Mabel's Pub. When Nungwala Tade Saints or Nautical Quantum Poniso, and Tijumedi beer with your Behia Gun and Riane, and in Nigeria for Niani P. at jollof rice, plain rice, Bankuni tilapia, Mabrami pizza, Eba, any Agushi in Kuobi, okra soup, bitter leaf stew, and a fofrobe braid. So we a year, Oji, our dear, Oto, Bedin, and now Posa Woody Jumediana, who here in Riane Papano, for my dinner for any Mabel Restaurant, and in Mabel's Pub. Yeah, free delivery. To show much Kwai Ewa Nungwa C5 Junction and in Nungwa Latter-day Saint. For Omo Ewa 0244 052012 and I say 0270 258028. Mabel's Restaurant and Mabel's Pub in Riani Penina Himfi.
Say Ban Herbal Center, na juma power ye ewo my Ghana team. Say we be on no via see your bonny dear. Yes, at your phone pan aye juma sono and unti tractor drivers, ne taxi drivers so all the omo beno ebon e try ya sa Ban Herbal Center edema say you no pem ya de.
Na no madamfo efie menu nya ankwanhia no ehọ na ye de no koye na ne nkasa mu ebuse pin na okoye no ya nkyere na ya nkye wode ahaban na etoso wo emfidie abrane a wode kire bebia mfomso no wo na wode ahaban eyi sa nkonya no na de anigye ni asombia befie
fonsema mo ya de dimpra ne begia yaresa ewo Ban Herbal Center enkran ye wala shebi community 16 road ye be Bows City frewo 0244 988004 atemfo ba nyare wanyina ebejuane ba.
Yeah, this is Muta Baruch and you're tuned to Radio Gold.
Prime Eye, run the track.
Yeah, well, this is Kimano Mali speaking to you all the way from Kingston, Jamaica, 56 Oak Road, and right now you're listening to Prime Eye on Radio Gold.
Reggae Reasons, live on Radio Gold, 90.5 FM, Wednesdays at 7 p.m.
Like you've been told, the station is gold, never gets cold. So just be bold, advertise, cause here you sell out.
You're still tuning to the Gold Morning Conversation live on Radio Gold 90.5 FM. Our guest in studio this morning is the Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Mr. Anthony Kwasi Sarpong. We've been talking about the Publican platform. There's a lot of questions I'd like to ask, but not for this particular show. We'll find some time when he will come back. And then perhaps on the bigger issue of revenue generation, his own vision for the GRA, among others. But if you're queuing for your favorite wache, we can accept it. If there's one thing that Ghanaians can relate with, it is queuing. Queuing for trotro, we can accept it. We adjust, we survive. In fact, if you're queuing, if queuing was an Olympic sport, Ghana will win gold. But one thing we can accept is queuing to swap your MTN SIM. Swap your MTN SIM yourself in minutes. Visit the My MTN app. Yes, My MTN app, or dial *133 *133# *133# to get this done as soon as possible. No more standing, no more sweating, no more who be the last person. Do it yourself. Simply swap it everywhere you go. That's from MTN. Well, the Commissioner General is here. One of the things that, and once again, thank you very much for joining us in studio.
My pleasure.
One of the things that we are hearing is that because you are driving values up. So because you are driving values up, we'll soon see increases in the prices of some products. That's the threat that has been put forward. How do you respond to that? That this system has led to, so if I was paying maybe $1 for a particular product, I'm not paying $2. So that will have to be translated into the pricing of the goods. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, so that's a very good question, and that's also a point that we have heard, which we don't quite believe that is the case.
Okay.
One is, as I've already mentioned, 75% of what is coming in is already accepted as normal. So that means that the declaration that the importer made that this is a duty I have to make, that is the one the system says that is accurate. So it means that it's normal and nothing is changing. So for a large of the imports of 75%, nothing really is changing. No value is going up because the importer said this is what I have to pay, and that is what GRA is collecting. However, there's a 75% group that we are raising an alert. That simply means that that's a 25% group. Previously, and most likely, they were not paying the correct duty, which means that on the market, they were advantageous than their competitors. So basically, if they pay the correct duty, they will be at par with their competitors. And if they aim to outprice, the competition should take them. We have a 75 group that is largely not going to have an impact at all. So we believe that paying the correct duty should not lead to increase in price. And we believe this is a kind of threat toward the effort, but it shouldn't, because the market dynamic itself will not support that. And those businesses will not survive if 75% of their competitors are paying correctly and they are pricing correctly. So that way we believe that those importers that we are flagging, if they pay correctly, ordinarily will still be in business and need not enter into any price hikes at all.
Because the average Ghanaian will be worried. You are hearing GUTA, Food and Beverages Association of Ghana, among others, threatening increases in prices. Why should they not be?
So of course, those things are coming. We are saying, let's support it with data. So that's why we are putting our data there. And we are saying that 75% of this group, we are not... we are agreeing with your self-declaration. So if you declare to government that I have to pay a duty of 1,000 and government accepts and pays 1,000, that should not lead into price increases. Then the remaining 25, again, maybe previously you're supposed to pay 1,000 as your competitors, you were paying 500. Now the system is supporting us to be able to fund it, so you pay at par with 1,000. So if the one paying 1,000 already is surviving on the market without price increase, they will also survive without a price increase. What it means is that the abnormal profit that probably they were making is what reduces, and that doesn't call for increase in prices at all. And then let's also realize that the government has done well to appreciate the cedi. Either a year ago, your rate was $1 to 15. Now it's 10. So even if you have an increase, you're still within a manageable, well-managed currency price stability. So again, we don't believe that it should lead in prices because government is blocking the leakages for a few that were not paying their duties correctly.
Allow us to pick just a few calls. If you have any, if perhaps you're a trader listening and you have anything to share, feel free. The numbers to call is 0302. Is it 303492 and 0599922922? Do join us. If you have any questions to ask about what, perhaps you have also listened to the news, you have some questions to ask the Commissioner General about some of the things you are hearing, you can join us 0302 303492 0599922922. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, your name and where you're calling us from?
My name is Sylvia. I'm calling from Biafra.
Okay, we are listening to you.
I went to Accra yesterday, and people are selling pure water for 70 pesos. Circle and Accra, people selling in the traffic. So please check that in for us. Thank you.
Okay, he is talking about pure water. That does not for. Do people import pure water?
So if not pure water, no,
okay.
yes. So
but there are some
this locally manufactured,
yes,
that comes in. Yes.
Okay. So pure water, that's not the domain of the Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority. And the reason they are increasing the pure water price is not also because of the Publican issue. So you can join us 0302 30 34 92. What do you think? Is there any question that you like to raise with the Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority? If I don't see my lines blinking, then I'll conclude with him. Good morning.
Good morning, Sana.
Yes, your name and where you're calling us from?
Please, my name is Bright. I'm calling from Tema.
Bright from Tema. Bright, we're listening to you.
Yes, please. Okay. Good morning, Commissioner General.
Good morning, Bright.
Please, my issue is I'm a clearing agent myself. But then the issue we are having now is not with the system. What is happening is we previously with youth clothing, let me use youth clothing as an example. We were using a unit price of 0.7 for youth clothing, which makes the duty around 95,000 previously. But now with the new system, the duties have gone up to some 198, 135. We are not getting a uniform duty again. With the same value, I have documents now that are from the same shipper, the same country of origin, the same quantity, the same weight. And we are having different values for them. Some are 198,000 when you are told there is no way to reverse it. So it got to a point we were compelled to pay because we are told severally and there was nothing being done about it. The containers are also going on the mortgage, so we have to pay and collect. But when you go to Kantamatu to buy a post bill, you can't say that because I paid a duty of 198,000. My other partner paid 130 or 97,000. So we should sell the bills at the same price. So the system is confused. That is what we are talking about. We are not against it. If we are all getting a uniform duty, we don't have a problem. But here lies the case. The same post container, someone is paying 130,000. Someone is paying 97,000. Someone is paying 200,000. You see, that is where the confusion is. So we are not against the system. We are not holier than the Pope. We just want the system to give us a uniform value. If we are all paying the same duty, we don't have a problem. But this is affecting our work. That is why we are talking. Because if someone is paying 97,000 and you are paying 198,000, probably your importer will take the work from you and give it to the one that got 97,000. Meanwhile, they are all from the same country, UK. They all have the same weight. They all have the same quantity. So that is the problem we want the system to address. We are never against the system.
Okay, right.
We never said anywhere we are against the system.
Right. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's right. And Commissioner General has heard you. I don't know if I can pick one more. Okay, so let me pick this one. I'm sure you. Okay, so he'll recall all of that. Good morning.
Hello. Good morning again. Please, I want to know from the commissioner: are they those in charge of? I'm a welder, so I want to know whether the metals and coal that are brought in from outside are they the same people in charge? Because it's like the prices we've been buying the metals is within this few days is rising up again. Normally it came down. The prices came down a bit, and when you give estimate to people, it's like people can afford can do. It's like the prices are shooting up again. That is one. And two, with this soft drinks, I've been seeing some paste, being put on, is it stickers or what? They put it at the top of the soft drink when you buy malt and coke. Is it the same person who is in charge of it? Because that thing, they should check it very well, because I think some people are printing their own and are putting it on. And where they are even placing it is wrong. They have to place it at the side or at the top, at the bottom. But they place it at the top, and when you open the top, sometimes the paper gets into the drain. This is all in online. So please, you should check that one too for us. Thank you.
Thank you. If I can get one more, then I'll come to a Commissioner General to address those issues. Then we can bring this to a close, because of course he has to go back to work. Well, okay, so we can leave it there. Yeah. So 2 issues, but the very first one goes directly to the issue.
The issue of the evaluation.
How do you explain? Okay, we have one more, just one more. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, your name and where you're calling us from?
My name is Kojo. I'm calling from Kwasi.
Kojo from Kwasi, we are listening to you.
Please ask the commissioner for me why they didn't educate the people before bringing in this thing. Because Ghanaian businessman is greedy. They will capitalize on this AI thing and be increasing price, and Ghanaians will be suffering from that. And my second question, is the AI coming to check revenue leakages? Is the purpose of the AI is to increase revenue, or what is the actual sense of bringing in the AI? Thank you.
I think a lot of this he's already addressed, but just for the sake of emphasis, maybe he will just run quickly through, because there are 2 things he's raising, and I know you have already addressed those. He's talking about revenue leakages, and he's also talking about education, which we spoke about largely. There's the matter of the what do you call it? The duties. The duties.
The Bright.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Please.
So let me start with Bright. Bright, thank you very much. So we are in the same ecosystem as Agent. Yeah. So I acknowledge the point that you made that for the same goods, for the same weight, is giving you, the system is assessing you differently. Okay. But as you know, you may have goods that look similar, but the classification could be different. And also, if you are just comparing the previous data, maybe they were doing and bringing a certain data and so it was being allowed. Now the system is assessing it. What I would say is that if you can post your BOE, Bright, you understand that a bill of entry number to the producer, I'll pick it up and we'll follow it up in your specific case as to why you experienced that, so that we can deal with this. So next time you are bringing goods, if there are any challenge that was from our side, we'll solve it before it happens. But also, if the opportunity to explain to you why maybe previously it ought not to have been what you were paying and this is the new one, then we can also explain. So please share your bill of entry number and your contact number and follow it up with you to resolve it for you.
Okay. How do we do that? Does it get in touch with us?
If he's using WhatsApp or whatever, he can call behind. He can just mention his bill of entry number to you. Once we get it, we'll be able to find him in our system.
Yes. So just use our normal number 0599922 Once we get it, we'll forward it to the Commissioner General and he'll look at it.
And I will find him. Once I have the BOE, I'll find him. Yes.
So you can only deal with this issue on a case by
case because basis. He's saying they bring different types. As I said, it can be classification, it can be weight, it can be different factors. That's why the different containers are having different valuations. And therefore, when you look at the specific case, then we can know why it was the case.
Because I realized that.
Yes. And then he also talked about in the past, they had a standardized value. So the AI doesn't know standardized value. So it will tell you the range of values that they believe it ought to be. But once we look into it, we'll be able to properly advise him.
I know the pure water matter you cannot.
As for the pure water matter, that's internally generated, manufactured product. But of course, once we are here, we'll mention it to the Minister of Trade. It falls within the trade, and we work with the trade ecosystem. So I'll take it up to communicate that to the minister. Then
I think there was a welder who said
he says he says there's a price of metals are going up. Of course, it's difficult to know where he's sourcing his metals from and the type of metal that he's dealing with. But as I already said, the system is not necessarily leading to increase in the price of metal. So that's something, again, that he can check with his suppliers to understand why the prices of metals, which previously was at a certain price, is changing.
And
then the other one mentioned, what he was referring to is what we call the tax stamps. So when you buy a product is manufactured or is coming in, we put a stamp on it. That allows us to trace the quantities that an importer or manufacturer is making and allow us to assess their revenue or turnover into the future. So I recognize his point. He says for the countries, it's placed at the top.
Right at where you are open.
Yes, we are working on a new system automation, so technology has moved. In future, it is not going to be paper-based. It's going to be something digital on the can. So we are working on it. So bear with us for a little while and also move with the changing times as well.
Then, like I said, the other aspect about education and everything.
That's a very important one. So he rightly said that in his view, the education is slow. We take it upon our strides, and we believe that for every change, sometimes people are used to things, and therefore it takes time to do so. Part of my appearance in other places, together with my officers, is part of the education, and we will continue with it to make sure that the general public, as well as the core groups that we work with, the trade associations and the importers, are also very familiar and understand. So that's something we are taking it upon to continue to work on and improve.
And then he asked the question about whether you brought this in to address revenue leaks, just for the sake of emphasis.
So actually, first and foremost, the tool is assisting us to ensure that where we were seeing potential revenue leakages, we can block them. And when we block them, then the state can recognize the revenue. But there has been some suggestions that we have increased taxes or levies and charges. And I'd like to emphasize that government has not introduced any new cost or charges at all in the implementation of the system. There's no levy, there's no charge, there's no fee. The importer is paying the same rate as they were used to, but the process of validating the information is what we are improving in that area.
And before I let you go, this is Commissioner for PI again. He says, Senna, CG should not write off the so-called 25%. There are real and serious issues on the ground. The technical committee was mentioned on the 1st of April, but still not in place. The problem is communication and how the appeal is being operationalized. Paga, Takrady, etc. Do they walk in for appeals to be heard? How do you respond to that?
Okay. So first, let me just emphasize that we're not writing it off at all. It's an important group and it's part of the ecosystem of the 100%. And indeed, that is the area that we are also seeing the challenges. So more of our work will be there. So as I mentioned, we've planned for a meeting of the technical committee this week, and the communication is actually on its way towards either Thursday or Friday. So they'll be seeing the communication. But that's going to continue. If I agree that every week that technical committee will meet. Again, in terms of the appeal, we are not making it physical. So before the Publican, all information is entered on what we call the ICOMs. So declarations and appeal and concerns will be entered by the agent and importers on the ICOMs. Our officers also reviews it on the same ICOM. So on the same system, we all see what is happening. If for any reason an importer has to physically come, we will communicate and get them to go to the nearest office to meet officers there, but the process is designed not to be physically present, so that we can all work on the system. So everywhere you are, we can all deal with the matter.
I see. Thank you very much. Of course, like I said, we have to find time. So, there's someone who's asking. Can you ask him whether there is a software or app exporters abroad can use to check the taxes to be paid? For example, if I decide to export a vehicle to Ghana, how do I check the amount of tax I will pay? Can you do?
Okay, so that is if you are bringing your vehicle here. So there's already a system in place like that. So we have the normal short codes or our WhatsApp numbers, which I don't have readily, but if you go to our website, you have them. And for general Ghanaians as well, if there are several individuals who want to bring a car, if you check with us and say you are bringing this car, even before you bring it, we'll give you an indicative price.
Okay.
Number two, if you fail to do that, 2 weeks before the ship arrives with your goods, again, our system is ready. Normally, we'll give you a fair assessment.
Okay.
Because remember that once the items are loaded on the ship, 2 weeks before it arrives, we have access to be able to give you a fair estimate. So my appeal is that most times people wait till the goods arrive and then wait after the first week before they start. We appeal to them, you can start it 2 weeks before the ship arrives, so you are fully aware of your duty. Prepare yourself, so as soon as your goods arrive, you can clear them. We have also introduced what we call, introduced what we call advanced duty facility.
Okay.
With some of the banks currently piloting with ABSA. Okay. So your goods are coming and you don't have the money. You walk into ABSA, they will give you money for the duty and pay to GRA.
Okay.
So when your goods come, you clear. And then they will give you between 6 months to 1 year to pay for it.
Okay.
So this is also part of the introduction that we have made, so that the issue that I don't have money to pay and my goods may eventually be taken from me will not arise.
Okay.
Yes.
In fact, there's a lot. Like I said, we'll come back and speak.
On the tax reforms generally
that you're doing.
We'll be happy to come back.
There's an interesting picture I saw of him, the governor of the Bank of Ghana, and then the finance minister. And then I said, okay, so far we've heard a lot from the fiscal side, the monetary side. Even though you're under fiscal, you are the revenue generator. Yes. So we'll find some time and speak to him on how well we are doing, what needs to be done to improve our revenues, among others. But thank you.
Thank you so much. We are glad to be here. And GRA, we thank all taxpayers. This is a tax education month. We thank all taxpayers. We ask them to voluntarily comply. To remind all taxpayers that end of this month is a tax filing month. Let us all make sure we file our taxes. And to conclude by saying, let us know our taxes, let us pay our taxes, and together we'll build Ghana as one nation.
Mr. Anthony Kwasi Sarpong is Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority. You join us on the Good Morning Conversation today for a conversation. We'll be back shortly.